Have you ever been hypnotized before?
No, at least not that I can remember.
Close your eyes.
There you are, in the passenger seat of an open-top car, driving through the countryside with a beautiful young woman.
I like your voice.
And with every mile you travel, all your problems
Where is the painting?
I don't remember.
seem so far away and so long ago.
I guess Ewan McGregor is so popular and big right now that Danny Boyle can't afford him, so he just gets James McAvoy.
Why not? James McAvoy pretty much is the new Ewan McGregor.
That's what I'm saying.
I've said that for years.
Some of the things that we see returning in Danny Boyle's movie, if it's not Ewan McGregor, we see the same electronic music that he likes to use.
Mm-hmm.
What's the band Underworld that he likes to use for most of his movies?
I have no clue, honestly.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Damn, man. I'm looking at
Why'd you ask if you didn't know?
I'm not really hitting the dance circuits like I used to anymore.
You look like a disco ball anyway. I thought you might know.
Let me check through my CDs real quick.
If anybody would know, it's a talking disco ball over here.
I really need to put these in MP3 format.
No. And
Danny Boyle does repeat a lot of things.
That's the thing.
I mean, he's somebody getting tortured, somebody getting interrogated, a big dramatic rescue. A movie that starts as one thing, and then in the third act he goes like, nah, I know it was a zombie apocalypse movie, but it's actually about escaping the military rape.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I know it's a heartwarming story about a widower and falling in love with a teacher, but it's really a crime movie. Or, hey, it's a sci-fi movie. No, it's really a horror movie. It's like, okay, man, just... How about making one thing?
And he does this cinematically too. A lot of frantic editing.
Yeah, frenetic.
Frenetic editing. Thank you. I knew I was missing some letters in there.
It is pretty frantic. Gotta finish this.
A lot of Fonzarelli editing.
You just said it so fast we couldn't perceive that other syllable.
I know,
so frenetically said it.
My pronunciation was so frenetic. Yeah. There's again the electronic music. Yeah. There's the visuals that he loves. So one of the things I love about Danny Boyle's movies is that they are quick. They're colorful. Mm-hmm. I love I love electronic music, so I love that he incorporates that.
They're beautiful to look at.
That guy is every movie he makes should actually be one of my favorite movies, but he's one of those guys where he'll make something I love, then he'll make something I don't really like that much.
Yeah, he's back and forth for me, too. It seems like every other movie, you're like, man, that was great. And the next one, you're like, well, that could have been great.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disheartening, too, because this is the first time he's worked with a guy who actually helped him write Train Spotting in a while. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, because this is actually based off a TV movie that the writer from Train Spotting, the writer who did that screenplay,
Joe Ahern.
He wrote this for TV. I'm sure it was probably like a British thing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they turned it into a movie.
Man, looking at this movie, I kind of the things I didn't like about it is that it's a movie where somebody goes into their head. And every time somebody goes into their head, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that because they go into their head and they do the same thing. They go into cathedrals, or they're always hanging out with a pretty girl, and that's what this was doing. And
outside of going into a cathedral, that would be half right for most people, at least for me. I'd be like, I'm just going to hang out with a pretty girl. Fuck the cathedral.
Yeah, exactly.
But cinematically, it becomes tropish to where you're like, does it have to be the same things every time?
Well, especially, I mean, I was like, is this Danny Boyle's? Is this his version of Inception now?
Right.
That, because it's a heist. It is a heist movie, but it's not the typical heist.
And that's why I thought I would love this a lot more. James McAvoy plays a guy who works for, I guess, an art bidding agency.
Yeah.
And since he's one of the inside guys, he's an inside guy for
he's a security guy.
But yeah, for a bunch of not a security guard,
not a security guard, but like maybe he's like security chief or he's one of the guys there who's trusted with handling the paintings. And they tell you in Danny Boyle fashion, very very stylistic. Hey, this is the procedure. Somebody breaks in, don't be a hero. Take this, get the most valuable item or items. You get those and you spirit those away. So whatever the thieves get, they don't get that.
Remember, do not be a hero.
Put it down.
No piece of art is worth a human life.
Yeah, you're the guy that they tell you you know what? It's not really worth dying for a piece of art, but they expect you to take the bullet. You're the guy that
gets shot in the leg. That's okay.
You're the guy that grabs it. You run into the vault, and you better good and goddamn well get in front of that painting if somebody's pointing a gun. But he's working with 4 gangsters, headed up by Vincent Castle, who plays a guy named Frank. And
what, Vincent Castle playing a gangster? Really?
I know, crazy, isn't it? Huh? A tour de force for this guy. But for some reason, James McAvoy's character decides to just screw up the whole plan and play the hero. He doesn't go along with it. And Vincent Castle just says, fuck it, I told you to stick with this, and knocks him aside his head. And when he comes to, James McAvoy doesn't remember anything. And when you double cross gangsters, of course, they're going to torture you to get the answers out of you, and they torture him bad.
It's all about, like, we got to get this guy to remember where he put this $25 million painting. There's a lot on the line.
And what they do is they hook him up with somebody who a hypnotist, not somebody that's working at a circus or something.
She's a hypnotherapist,
and it's played by Rosario Dawson. And as she starts to hypnotize him, other things start to come up that we don't know. Does he know her? Has he seen her before? Is she in on this? Is she not? Is she working with the gangsters? Is she working alone? There's a lot of twists that are happening, which should make you interested in this movie the whole time. My biggest problem with this, the reason why I can't be interested in all these twists and turns that a great heist movie like this should make, is that all these dream sequences, man.
And it's the dream sequences that keep adding to the complexity of this storyline, where it's like, for a good heist movie, you don't need to add all these different layers.
No, you don't.
To detour, the audience into going, okay, well, what is this really about now? I thought this was all about trying to find a piece of art. Now it's become, what secrets is this guy really keeping? What's in his personal life? What's the darkness of this guy's personal life? It goes in all these other avenues where you're just like, oh, okay, this is too complex now for.
It sounds pretty awkward for the criminals. Really, they're like, I don't want to know all this shit. It's like, and then when I was 12, I let a dog lick peanut butter off my dick. And Stop!
Well, you make a good point.
You bring up a good point, because even co-host, as you described it, I was like, hey, I'd like to see that movie. Except watching it didn't play out that way, because first off, the heist is exciting. Danny Boyle knows how to do that. Mm-hmm. So once you're introduced to that, you really keep wanting to get back to that element of it. But sure, taking you through the whole, okay, it's a ridiculous premise that the criminal's going to say, like, let's take you to a hypnotherapist, because they push it to a point where you start to lose focus on what you were there for in the first place.
Right. And
any movie that's about a con or heist or magicians, it all ends up being like, don't believe everything you see. So okay, everything they're showing me is bullshit. Let me just get to the end where they tell me what's going on.
And the kind of criminals these were, don't you get the feeling that they would have beat his ass so much that he would have remembered one way or another?
They would have beat his ass. They would have beat her ass too.
Yeah. One of y'all gonna remember something.
That's all I could think about, and it really was confusing to the point where it's like, okay, these characters don't even seem like they're actual real characters,
right?
And really, the audience, it didn't really work that much for me, and I'm not going to say that it won't work for some people, because it is a movie and it wants to move quickly. I couldn't get past the fact that Rosario Dawson, she's almost magical with our hypnotherapy.
Yes.
I mean, there's no method to it. I mean, all you do is sit down and she starts talking. That's it. She don't put a watch in front of you. She don't play any music or anything. She just sits down and says,
"You didn't see the nip slip?"
Yeah, no, see, that's not even that.
When she got naked, I was hypnotized. Then.
No, but like I'm saying, no, she's fine as hell. But damn, I mean, you gonna have to show me more than her voice. You're right. She gonna have to,
they did.
She gonna have to, you gonna have to like show me a couple of nipples or bend over or something. But that's the movie. That's a complaint of mine. I'm not going to nitpick for everybody. I just didn't buy that.
It's one of those things where I like, okay, I can get past the fact.
You have to buy it. That's the premise.
You're telling a story, and I'm not going to get so down on the details of how you're going to do it, but you still have to be engaging. And that's the thing. This movie... Oh, you're right. That first part where they're actually into the heist, that gets you pumped. It gets you in it. There's a lot of great scenes, got a great camera work, great acting, great performances. But then when it comes down to people just sitting down in a chair, boy, does a movie slow down. And this one, it did. I found myself kind of bored, especially when you realize that these are dreams.
Yeah.
This isn't really happening, so it really is not going to play any real part into the actual story.
See, I actually liked where it went.
Oh, for real?
My problem with the dream sequences in here, not that they're just dream sequences and I felt like I've seen them before. I think Danny Boyle is somebody who is so visual, it could work against him sometime. There's a about 3 movies or 2 movies that he's made. The most memorable one that I can remember not liking because he just was too visual with it. It wasn't not liking because he just was too visual with it. It wasn't getting on with the story. Was The Beach. I've actually learned to appreciate The Beach a little more as time went by. But here, it seems more self-indulgent with the dream sequences. He seems very proud of his visuals that he's doing, and they just go on a little bit too long. It's not that I don't think they shouldn't have been there. I just think that they're going on to the point where they're not adding to the story anymore. They're just showing me pretty pictures. But what's one of the major twists in the movies, I did like where it went with one of his characters, because I didn't really see it coming. And even though I don't think it's a very strong twist, I thought it was kind of interesting.
I that's where I'm with co-host on that. It's kind of like, all right.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I was revved up by it.
With you.
I was revved up by the first act and still intrigued halfway through the first halfway through the second act. And then it started to lose me. But then the third act is all like, usually with a mystery, you know, you go through all this and you're wondering what's going on. And then in those last 15 minutes, they give you that key information. You go, but it was like 30 minutes of explaining, well, this is the past and this is what really went on. That explanation went on for so long. I was like, yeah, I don't buy any of this. You know, and that whole like explain like, well, this character was really this way. I was like, I don't buy that from him for a second. What you showing me this, I don't buy that.
See, that's what the movie did. Danny Boyle spent so much time. Ain't this pretty? Look at this. Look at what I can do with these visuals right here. Boy, look at my cinematography. Hey, damn, man, we gotta go. Oh, what time is it? Oh, yeah, well, you see what happened with James McAvoy is that he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. Then, bye.
That's a key of any like great con or even just mystery film, is that it has to at least have been plausible for the audience to figure it out on their own. It can be really hard, but you have to give them enough information where they could have come to the ending. And it sounds like they're just like, they're like, oh, we forgot to mention this 30 minutes worth of really pertinent data.
Yeah, I was like, you just made all this shit up.
I will say though that once again, this is a movie that kind of came out of nowhere for me. Yet it left a long-lasting impression due to a very beautiful scene involving Rosario Dawson, where you see a really beautiful, clean, close shave that she has, and that I almost my heart almost, if I had one, it would have leapt out of my body because I was like,
she clearly uses a Mach 5 razor.
It was the most beautiful shot. It within itself is a piece of art.
Oh man, you should have heard yourself in there when that happened. All I heard was,
you kidding? I was sitting next to him. I had to go clean up after.
Clean yourself up or clean him up off of you? Well,
but I will say this though, realizing what the movie was, I went and did my research after I saw the movie, of course, especially.
Look at him. He's doing his research.
He's all grown up.
I did my research, and I was like,
he went on Wikipedia after you walked out the movie.
I did my research because apparently this played at South by Southwest. So I was a little curious about I wonder what other people thought about this movie. And when I looked up every review, every story, the only thing they ever talked about, the only headline was Rosario Dawson is completely shaved. And that's all I saw about this movie. And it really said something to me. I was like, okay, that's all the movie really kind of has going for it, you know. It really does.
Stop it! No, it doesn't. It's most of it. Don't get me wrong, but there's more.
Of it, yeah.
It is like at a point when you kind of like you're almost half asleep and you're kind of giving up on it. It's that thing that makes you go, okay.
You know, the parts that I really enjoyed were the scenes where Vincent Castle was clean shaven. Did you notice that when he walked out to the? No.
That's pretty rare too.
But you know, I mentioned Vincent Castle, and that's one of the people that I really liked in the movie. I like James McAvoy.
He's always good. That guy, I like him.
That guy, that guy commands the screen whenever he comes on. I mean, that dude. He looks like a praying mantis, but you know, he's one of those guys that's so ugly. He's handsome.
He looks fierce.
And he's French.
But his character also shows dimension too. I mean, he seems like he's all one thing, and then it's like, okay, he's got layers to him.
No, there's a lot of good actors in this movie. Jane, let me finish, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop agreeing with you.
Yeah, no. Well, let me get it out, and you can agree with me. Hey, you know, Leon.
No, you're probably gonna say something I don't agree with.
No, Leon. James McAvoy. Really good in this movie. Vincent Castle, Rosario Dawson, really good. Now, don't you agree?
Nice area is not Bush League anymore.
No, it's one of those movies where it has a lot going for it. I mean, there's a lot of good elements in it. I mean, there's so many things that work. It's just that either some things go on for too long, or some things don't go on long enough, or they just don't really mix together very well. I mean, I do like this movie. I think it's fun. I do think it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of the things that I am complaining about, to a certain extent, before they ride it out to the point where you get tired of it, I think they're very interesting in the beginning. This is one of my lesser Danny Boyle movies that I like. This is not something that I felt like when I saw Slumdog Millionaire, or when I saw 28 Days Later, or when I saw Trainspotting, or even Shallow Grave. Right. You know, those movies are amazing to me.
They're memorable.
Yeah, they're memorable. And then you have The Sunshines. You have
I like Sunshine better.
I like Sunshine
than what is it?
28 Days Later.
Yeah, I was always like,
that's
that
your
third
problem.
act was like, what the fuck just happened to the zombie film?
Exactly.
and I understand that, but that's kind of what I liked about the movie.
That's why I love it too.
Yeah, but this one, it's really doesn't go anywhere beyond just being very pretty, very fast for a little bit. It's a quick adrenaline rush that just goes away too soon, and I'm gonna give it a high rental.
Yeah. When you mentioned good Danny Boyle movies, one of my favorites is 127 Hours. So after coming off that and to this, I was like, man, this feels like a
really
real.
like that too.
Yeah, I just felt like a real step backwards, and not in a good way. Like, not in like, hey, he's back to Trainspotting. It's like, no, he's back to those movies where I'm just like, well, it started out as something, but where it goes, dude, come on, you stop doing that. You're too old for this.
Focus.
Thank you, co-host. Focus. and really, it asks you to accept a ridiculous premise. But hey, man, if you're going to watch a lot of movies and enjoy movies, you should do that. And no matter how much, but it's almost like once you do that, it just keeps piling on. Like, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we do this? I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't get with you. It ends in such a way that really blows any goodwill I had towards it, which I had a lot when it started. But because of how pretty it is and the great acting, I give it a high rental.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It's one of those movies that it's very beautiful to look at. The score itself is great. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go pick up some of this music, this trance music or whatever it is, and jam out to it because it's good. There's times when music really does help scenes, and through a lot of this movie. Some of the boring stuff, I thought because of the music was there, it did help. Kind of like the music helped Tron a lot. But saying that, yeah, it does have its problems at the very end where it was a matinee for me for a while until that ending where I'm like, some of it was good, but some of it was just a little too damn much to swallow for me. So yeah, it's definitely a rental. It's a shame because I look forward to Danny Boyle films, and especially like you said, after 127 hours. You just hope for the best, and with this, not so much.
I honestly forgot that was a Danny Boyle movie.
Yeah, because it's so good. Yeah, it's good, and he doesn't do that thing that he so often.
He doesn't overdo it. Yeah,
it doesn't look like
when
it's
he
typical.
Cuts into his arm, and the music goes.
Owie, owie, owie. You know what? That was co-host. That scene, that was his nerve. When Rosario Dawson walked out, you should have heard Cole squeal.
You begin to remember what you did with the painting.
9.
And you know that the men cannot hurt you.
7.
Now, do you want to remember?
5.
Or do you want to forget?
3.
Your life depends on it.
1.